card on this computer. All right, so we're just going to work with Izzy today because he's the only one available. And so we're just going to get to know his draft here. And that way we can do the final, mostly editing, but a little bit of revision if needed here. So I was able to find myself again while also being cautious about thinking before I do something. All right, your turn.
Okay. Um, when I was in my relationship, well, I have to mention this was my first real relationship. What some teenagers like to call it. It was honestly a great experience, and I also learned things during our relationship. The main thing I learned was communication. Without communication, you can't make a relationship work with anybody, whether it's friends or family. I would say my biggest problem in life in general is communication. I am just not that great at it. It's like I refuse to speak up. It's like I refuse to speak up and talk when something is going wrong or when a mistake is made on my end. It's something I'm getting better at over time, but it's something that needs improvement. There were there were times in our relationship when I didn't communicate and it ended up putting me in the hole, making things harder to work out rather than just come clean about something small. Or if I did communicate, it was already too late. This caused me to do something stupid, something that at the time didn't make me forgive myself. Me and my ex had an issue, and I don't remember specifically what it was about, but I do remember the events after the issue took place. We had a big argument, and we were both mad at each other for little things we did, but they were big to us. I remember some of the little things I would do is say like very ignorant and very slick comments that were somewhat personal to a level. And she used to do that to me as well, by telling me how dry and nonchalant I am. And then I'll probably say something like, well, it's not your fault. You're hard to talk to, or something like that.
Hmm. Wow.
I remember this girl that texted me out of nowhere. Didn't know who it was, and I didn't know why they would be texting me. I had to mention that our relationship wasn't public, but it was known that we would post each other on our Snapchat or Instagram stories every once in a blue moon. When this girl texted me, we were having small talks like, "Where you from? How old are you?" and things like that. Little did I know that the small talks we were having will lead even will lead into even bigger talks like, "Are you in a relationship? Do you think I'm pretty?" and things like that. I was honestly holding my ground at the moment, not like I should have been, but I wasn't like, "Yeah, I'm single." I was more like, "No, I have a girlfriend, but we could be friends." And that was the worst decision I could have made that night. That was the worst decision I could have made that night. Letting a complete stranger, someone I don't know, into my personal life, telling her personal information. My relationship with this girl was it very personal. It was more like an escape. We honestly didn't talk. We honestly didn't talk for long. For okay, I said that twice. We honestly didn't talk for a long time, but for the time being, there were slight feelings between us. And me not knowing that that could happen, it definitely messed up my head because of how strong feeling because I had strong feelings for my girlfriend, and I barely had any for this random girl that texted me out of nowhere. At this time, I was able to balance be talking to both of them because I stopped giving one of them my attention, which was my girlfriend, and she also stopped talking to me as well. So it was easy, but had a big effect on our relationship. You may ask, well, how did you cheat? Well, I gave my full attention to someone else that was not my partner, giving her what she wanted, and that was me. Wait, and that was me, or so I thought. Remember when I said all actions have consequences? But my consequences was losing the love of my life while also getting humiliated by her friends and the kids that went to her school. I guess I deserved it. I messed up, and that was it there.
Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna write some quick things here. All right. Um, although that did happen, it's not like we just cut each other off for good. Well, at least she didn't believe it or not. we actually tried to work things out and fight through it. Things weren't going the best, but it wasn't horrible. There were some arguments here and there, but it wasn't over nothing crazy. The only thing I did hate was when she brought up, I think it should probably meant to say brought up that I had cheated on her. It was like she was hanging it over my head. Okay, let me see. Knowing that I'm just not a cheater. It made me mad and angry at times because what is the point of working things out if you're going to keep using the past against me? Which at this point, it was in the past and basically forgotten about. I could tell that she was definitely hurt though. I broke her and I hate to see her like that because I know she loved me and I loved her as well. She also had a huge impact on me. I'll just do this. She was always there for me when she didn't need to be. She always checked up on me and asked if I was okay. There was a time where I was going through it because my mom had had surgery on her ovaries and I was scared, but she always made sure I was okay. She even offered to come see me at the hospital. I did take accountability and owned up to it, but at some point I had to let it go and just move on from what it what I did. Let me see. I did take accountability and owned up to it, but at some point I had to let it go and just move on from what I did because I was not going to let what I did hold me back. But she kept bringing it up, and I had to eventually just be honest with myself and tell her that this isn't going to work. Um, just a little bit of feedback here. I had to eventually, okay, blah, blah, blah. I messed things up by cheating, but I did try to redeem myself, which is something she didn't see I was trying to do. But life goes on, and I wished her the best in everything. Great. I like your little notes to yourself. Really nice impact she had. I made a costly, dumb, immature, and selfish mistake of cheating on my girl. Lovely. I love the paragraph break here. Nice double spacing there, because that signals to the reader that now I'm going to kind of consolidate everything I've been saying into what lesson I learned. Um,
Yeah.
I made a costly, dumb, immature, and selfish mistake of cheating on my girlfriend when I did not take into consideration of her feelings. Therefore, it ended up in a painful breakup. Although this did happen, my supporting cast around me, being my mom, a couple friends, and my therapist, they helped me get through my guilt. They also taught me how to consider other people's feelings, think before you do, and that actions speak louder than words. I was able to bounce back to my normal self in no time. I was talking to my friends more, being more open, and I also got closer to God. I'm proud of who I am, and things will only go up from here. Okay. I can tell. Wow, this is um looks like what you did in blue here was after Monday session when you took suggestions from Adi, right?
The stuff in black. The stuff in blue was already there. The stuff in black is like the things I've added. And the stuff in purple as well.
Okay, so stuff in black is what you added. Um,
And I think I did add a couple things that are in blue, but most of like the newer stuff is in black and the purple.
okay, great. Okay. Yeah, anytime I feel like there is see, as long as you know where these main paragraphs are that are event one, event two, event three, however you plan that,
Mhm.
um, it's it doesn't hurt to create new paragraphs because I feel like, at least from my perspective as a reader, some of the stuff that you're saying here deserves to have its own kind of emphasis, right? Pretty much, there's so much going on here. Now, I think that this part here, the beginning is a little wordy, because again, you're telling. And I would say here, great suspense story you're reading it. Let me see. You must have written something for me to put this in green here. So I'm wondering if maybe this stuff, you already had most of this stuff already on Monday. It looks familiar already. Um, so here's what I'm going to say. Um, now, this is the most difficult thing about revising. And I'm going to tell you right now. It's called killing your babies. What does that mean? Well,
Like,
these words that you put out there, they represented something important. They represented your thoughts at the time.
mhm,
But what we have to understand is when you take a paragraph and you just either cross certain things out, maybe you move it somewhere else. In some cases, people might delete an entire paragraph. Um, Other people call it slash and burn. It's the downside of the good side, because you wrote so much, which is great because there's so much to work with. But at this point, it becomes a painful part where what and I'll show you where I would start the story. And it's gonna seem like, what? Like you've lost like the main part of my story. Well, not really, because I'm gonna show you something here. So what I'm talking about, you think that your story's here. You think your story is about you telling us about a relationship. It was happy. Actions have consequences, all that kind of stuff. But that's not your story. That's what you think about your story, and that's what you want your reader to know. But that's not necessarily how the final product is going to look, if that makes sense,
mhm.
right? It's like in a game, your coach is going to say to you, 1, 2, 1, 2, Doritos, Cheetos, hike, whatever that expression is that they use in practice. And I'm just making it up. I don't know how they do it in football, you know, but I'm sure that you have certain names for certain things.
Yeah.
When it gets to game time, it's just about the fundamentals. It's just about, oh, wait a minute. We can't, it's not, yeah, we have a playbook, but when we're in a real game situation, it's minute by minute. And it's like, oh, that game we practice, that move we practiced 17 different times on Thursday, that means nothing right now. But everything we learned in those 17 repetitions will benefit us in this move. It just looks different. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Let me speak very plainly. You want us to understand certain things. Honesty is important. Communication is important. I think we can say all of that. But guess what? Your story is doing most of the heavy lifting for you. The actual details. All right, so let me see. Okay. Then watch what I do. We're just gonna find the actual, like if this was a movie, who's doing what, who's saying what in the story. Then all the things you want to say about communication and honesty, about good character and all those things, those choices that you made,
Mhm.
we're gonna build it around that part of the story. Watch. Ah, okay. I think this is where um what if you were to start here? This is the very beginning. Say perhaps.
Yeah.
Just have to trust me with this. I remember this girl that texted me out of nowhere. Didn't know who it was, and I didn't know why they would be texting me. I had okay, now who's our? Is this new girl or the existing, like your real girlfriend at that time?
My girlfriend at the time.
Okay. Can we give her a name, maybe a fake name if you don't want to share the real name?
Yeah, we could give it a fake name. Uh, we could do. We could go with Chloe.
All right. I remember this girl that texted me out of nowhere. We could even say one day. No, we'll keep it that. I remember this girl that texted me out of nowhere. Didn't know who it was, and I didn't know why so she would be texting me. I have to mention that my relationship with Chloe wasn't public, but it was known that we would post each other on our Snapchat or Instagram stories every once in a blue moon. Was she your girlfriend? Do you want your reader to know that?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess they know that already from this. Okay. All right. Um, now you and Adi and most of my students in schools are a bit wordy. So this is just a common thing. All right. I remember this girl that texted me out of nowhere, didn't know who it was, and I didn't know why she would be texting me. I have to mention that my relationship with Chloe wasn't public, but it was known that we would post each other on our Snapchat or Instagram stories every once in a blue moon. Anyway, the text from the girl. Anyway, the text from this stranger asked, "Where are you from? How are you?" and things like that. How did it feel, by the way? How did it feel to get these text messages and to respond?
Um, at the time, I'll definitely say it was very interesting because, like I was saying, my relationship it wasn't public, but like it was known that I was in a relationship and stuff like that. So to get the text messages at the time, it was kind of awkward and but I
Yeah.
still went along with it because I didn't know where it was going to go.
Were you excited on any level or
Uh,
intrigued or
event
that?
eventually, I definitely got like excited and stuff. Definitely.
But initially you felt, uh, okay, okay, here we go, here we go. I remember this girl. I remember that this, uh-oh. Mhm. Okay, I think I'm gonna do this. Remember that. I remember that this girl texted that this, wait a minute, girl texted me out of nowhere. Didn't know who it was, and I didn't know why she'd be texting me. I remember that this girl texted me out of nowhere. See, so kind of this is how I do it when I revise. I go back and forth. I focus on a few things. Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to spend, like the next 3 months doing this, because obviously this is taking a bit of time, but I want you to kind of see the process. Whether or not we get as this story here
Mm-hmm.
to where it can be doesn't really matter. I just want you to see the process, and then I'll let you try it as well. Um, but I want you to see how it kind of shifts. Um, I remember that this girl texted me out of nowhere, didn't know who it was, and I didn't know why she'd be texting me. It felt weird at first. Now we're giving hints that something's going to change, because this is how relationships work. They start small
Yeah.
and they grow because they get exciting. Anyway, the text from the stranger asked, "Where are you from? How old are you?" and things like that. I answered, and soon I found that it felt what? How did it feel? After a couple of questions, after she kind of warmed you up. Did it feel so weird? Did it feel so like, what on earth? Did it feel flattering that somebody would be interested in you?
Yeah, definitely.
Like your ego a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all of us, right? By the way, that's not to say it was a bad thing. It's natural, right?
Yeah.
I answered, and soon I found that it didn't feel so weird. She asked more questions. How could someone, it felt nice to know someone was interested in me. Little did I know that the small talks we were having would lead. By the way, an editing note here. When you have a lot of students put commas in places that they don't need them, because I feel like maybe your sentence is so long and you know it. And so maybe that's where you paused, right? Little did
Yeah.
I know that the small talks we were having would, right? Don't most people pause after like that just to see the look on their friend's face?
Yeah.
I feel that that's probably why a lot of students do it, but there's no comma needed there. You're just saying that this would lead to that, right?
Yeah.
All of this would lead to all of that, right? It's almost
Yes,
like a
sir.
simple sentence. Little did I know that hamburgers would lead to weight gain, right? There's no comma needed. So I took out the comma there. All right, let's get rid of this bold so we don't get confused later. Um, like, are you in a relationship, or do you think I'm pretty, and things like that? Oh, okay. Now, notice what I did here. I kind of kept everything like a story, like that reader when they read it. Yeah, it's definitely important for them to know about Chloe. But when you are telling a story, it's all about what happened first, what happened next, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And then notice how I put in how you felt. We can easily put how you thought once all this is there. So we're just going to underline everything. So later on, when you look at it, you're just looking at the events. Now, what are your thoughts? Were these, do these choices work for your story?
Yeah, they definitely. I definitely like them.
Okay. Um, would it be helpful if I were to underline everything in the story? That's where it's everything's all the action is.
Yes.
Okay. I was honestly holding my ground at the moment, not like I should have been. But it wasn't like, yeah, I'm single. It was more like, no, I have a girlfriend, but we can be friends. And that was the worst decision I could. Right. Yeah, right. Telling her personal information. My relationship with this girl wasn't very personal. It was more like an escape. We honestly didn't talk for a long time, but for the first time, there were slight feelings between us. Me not knowing that could happen, it definitely messed up my head because I had strong feelings for my girlfriend. I barely had any for this random girl that texted me out of nowhere. Again, this is a lot of explaining, and um, we we know. I mean, like what you want us to know, we're gonna get. In other words, if I were to just say, um, the point is, you didn't know that these feelings for a different person than your girlfriend could take over, right? Um, okay, at this time, I was able to balance me talking to the both of them because I stopped giving one of them my attention, which was my girlfriend, and she also stopped talking to me as well. So your girlfriend stopped talking to you?
Yeah, she did.
Okay. All right, there's more. I really think that the sentence is incredible. I love it because it's Izzy's voice here. I mean, it's your voice throughout, of course. Some of it we have to let go of because we're explaining a lot, but there are certain things you say where it's like, I like that kind of like um you have to have that variety in there. And I think that kind of like it's different. It's like a charm. Um, okay. Okay. Losing the love of my life is an event. Um, are you saying that this is where it happened at this time I was able to balance blah 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 and she also stopped talking to me as well. So it was easy to do, but I had had a big effect on our relationship. But at what point was that where it ended, or did it end like gradually after that, or just kind of just you stopped talking?
We stopped talking. It didn't end there though.
Okay. All right. Getting humiliated by her friends and the kids that went to her school. I guess I deserved it. I messed up. Okay. You're sort of telling here, but I like it because it's like this happened. Relationship when it changes, it is an event because it's an emotional event. Um, okay. And I like this transition. Wonderfully done. Instead of saying, by the way, you said, believe it or not. I like that. I think that's strong. It slows. There's a lot of words there. Believe it or not, comma. It slows the reader down and it says, hey, just when you thought it was over, guess what? Right. So that kind of pacing is important in the story. We're down, fought through it. Things weren't going the best, but it wasn't horrible. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. There were some arguments here and there. Here's a good example, right? Well, maybe that's a bit much. Okay. All right. Here's an example when you're explaining something that it's better to show it. So things weren't going the best, but it wasn't horrible. There were some arguments here and there. And instead of saying that, you can say, I mean, you can say there were arguments here and there. For example, one time we argued about something small, lunch. She said, what do you mean what do I want for lunch? It's the same thing I always have. And I said, but you never say like that, right? Like, why are you overreacting? Right.
Mhm.
Um, and then how did it end? In that particular moment, I walked away, right? But it wasn't over nothing crazy, right? Just like you said, the only thing I did hate was when she brought up that I cheat. Oh, yeah, and this is exactly great right here. You're actually being more specific because you're showing, not telling. Um, yeah, and this is important too. It made me mad. Okay, for the first time, this is the strongest point in the story to this point of you telling me how you felt. It made me mad and angry at times. Anytime you say I felt, this made me feel, that sort of thing. That is kind of like the backbone of the story here. Okay, now I know we've been at it for a long time, so it might be that at this point it's almost like I know that it's hard to keep your attention. on this. But I would say here, this is a good example here where you're a bit wordy, but I would end it right here. So it made me mad and angry at times because it was the point of working. What is the point of working things out if you're going to keep using the past against me? Which at this point it was in the past and basically forgotten about. That's where we don't really need that. I mean, it's cool to say, but not absolutely. Where are we? Where's my strike through? No. Yeah, I'm not totally familiar with where to find the strike through. I think it's actually up here. Format. Yeah, Google moves things in odd places. Let's see here. Oh boy. I don't see it for some reason. Format. Oh, it's probably here. Okay. Declining indent. Line in paragraph spacing. Oh, goodness. This is making me crazy here. All right, I would say this just yeah. Okay. Because you tend to run on. And I get what you're trying to say, but it's almost like the reader is going to get a lot of that kind of stuff already. They're already going to be thinking stuff like that. She also had a huge impact on me. She was always there for me. Um, why are you telling me this? She had a huge impact on me. What is that doing to the way that you feel in this story?
Uh,
Because she means a lot to you. She was there for you. Um, that's like really important. And
yeah. Well, I put it there
so
because well, she also had a vision. She was
describe the feeling for you at this time, knowing she has had a major positive impact on your life? How are you feeling now in this moment? Just realizing what she's been to you.
very like what's the word I'm looking for? Like not well, kind of emotional, but it's more like dang, I messed up. Like it's that feeling of guiltiness, like I lost something, like I lost something very valuable and regret.
I know, gosh, Izzy, I have to tell you, bro, that I know that feeling. It's horrible because it's like your whole life changes, it feels like, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like, oh my gosh, it's too late. And when you realize it's too late, I'm not trying to rub it in. What I'm trying to say is what you're experiencing here, and hopefully what I'm trying to say is going to make you feel better a little bit, that other people experience that too, is that what you're going to learn in life um, is that some relationships, and here's my suggestion to you. If can I give you this kind of sort of advice if you is that okay?
Yes, sir.
As you get older and you, I mean, I doubt you'll make a mistake like this again, but sometimes situations like this are an opportunity for people to actually to recognize, hey, you know, so Chloe, I made a serious mistake. I did not realize. I feel terrible. I feel like I didn't understand what you and I are about until this very moment. And it's almost like I had to make the mistake, and now sometimes the other person's understanding, sometimes they're not. But if the other person's understanding and they've also had made their own mistakes, that somebody else has shown them forgiveness, it can really deepen your relationship. And so I would just encourage you that it's not the mistake that is everything. Yes, you were remorseful and felt guilty, and I commend you for that. It means you've been you have a good moral upbringing. But at a certain point, you have to tell yourself if you tried with her and she just was like, well, whatever, you know, that's kind of on her. You know what I mean? All right, feelings of regret and guilt. So that's what I would write down if I want to just make sure. Like right now, at this point, we're almost out of time. I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so done with this essay right now. I'm going to come back to it a different day. If it was me, right? Just so hang with me for another few minutes. We'll be done. Um, here's the point. I'm going to read this paragraph. I'm going to look in here for if you stated this idea of feeling this major sense of loss, guilt, regret. And if it's not there, we're going to put it there. This is really the way I grew the most in my writing. When I had somebody like what I'm doing for you right now, somebody would sit down with me and say, hey, what are you trying to say here? What are you trying to say? Lay it on me, Izzy. And you say, like, well, I'm just trying to say blah, 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 period. And I'm like, you're like, thank you, Mr. Shaw. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. It was up here, it wasn't here. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but now that you see, when I loved her as well. So there's not really a transition here. So it made me angry. And so what I'm going to look now for is a transition. It made me mad and angry at times, because what is the point of working things out if you're going to keep using the past against me? We need a transition to this. Nevertheless, even though I felt angry with her bringing up the past, I realized for the first time the impact she had on me. Now, what did I do here? I want that to sink in to the reader, because in the real story, I'm guessing this is a huge emotional moment for you, right? Okay, use your power of your paragraph here. Paragraphs don't have to be 3 or 4 sentences. Paragraph can be a sentence, right, when it comes to a story, because your readers, your teachers will know that you're trying to emphasize something here. Nevertheless, even though I felt angry with her bringing up the past, I realized for the first time the impact she had on me. It was, watch this. Talk about flow. It was Chloe who was always there for me when she didn't need to be. It was Chloe who always checked up on me and asked if I was okay. It was, now why do I keep this repetition going? What's going on with that? It was Chloe. It was Chloe.
Because you want to make it known that she was the one that had an impact on me.
Yeah. So repetition is it's emotions. We want the
Yeah.
reader to feel the emotions. I have to be honest with you. I'm feeling emotional now. I feel really, I'm feeling the emotions within myself from your story. Um, it was Chloe who was there the time when I was going through a rough time because my mom had to go through surgery and I was scared. And it was Chloe. Who always made sure I was okay, even offering to come to see me at the hospital. All this other stuff about you being reflective here, it's important, but I want to kind of separate it from this. Watch this. Who would be there for me the same way? I felt the I can say regret or I can show it. I felt for the first time I had made a serious mistake I could never take back. Oh, we're out of time. Thanks a lot. And then there's a huge transition here. And we have transition words like and or but or however or in addition. We can also have transitions that are like phrases. Um, it could be like these feelings would haunt me, but not forever, because I did take accountability and owned up to it. And at some point I had to let it go and just move on from what I did. How do you feel now about what we did here? Has this
I definitely like it.
do you
I
think
like what
that
we did here.
do you think that the events that we've focused on and the way that we've kind of singled them out, put them kind of emphasis there, small paragraphs, sinking
Yes.
in, slowing the pace, don't you feel
Yeah.
that reader, like you don't have to say much, they get it. It's like I felt like shit and
Yeah.
everybody would understand, or I had
Yeah.
to move on and everyone would understand. So I just want to make this useful for you because we don't have to come back to this. We don't. We're gonna have time to be editing. Who care? I mean, the writing process, yeah, drafting, peer revision, edit, final draft, punctuation, yada 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 yada. I felt like what we did here, the use of our time here, hopefully is something that you know you can remember kind of like how to do it. I mean, we can work on it a little bit more during office hours if you want. If you want to try some of it, I
Yes,
would
sir.
say if you wanted to do some homework, I would say a lot of these areas where I put in parentheses show or
Yeah.
imagery, whatever it is, like so there's a lot of notes here, like maybe walked away, add imagery right here, right? There, if you want, you can kind of practice showing, not telling. And then what you try to do, so here's part one. I know I'm keeping you a little bit extra. Um, why don't I just put it right in here at the bottom? We're going to call it optional homework. Optional. I would say this is really where you learn it. Okay. One, try to take one or two instances in the story and show them happening. Then erase the part where you are explaining. Try to take everything you explained. This includes stuff like, and we call this commentary. Now, this is going to be difficult, so I don't want you to spend too much time. I could have taught you a whole lesson on just simply, if I were to say to you, for example, you can only keep 2 sentences from this, or you can only make all this into 2 sentences. I think you could do it. It'd be difficult. You have to make some choices. You might have to combine ideas. You might have to first go through and say, what do I really want to focus on? This is what I really want to focus on here. We supported. That's the most. So you got to kind of prioritize. What's the main thing I'm trying to say here? You might try it like 1 sentence at a time. Get rid of 1 sentence. All right, fine. Maybe combine it to something else. All right, fine. Get rid of another sentence. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to take what was in that sentence, put it somewhere else with another sentence, right? Then get rid of a third sentence. And if you just do that a couple times, get rid of a couple sentences, you'll just feel like, what does that choice feel like in the moment when I'm trying to write something and having to kill my babies? Like, man, this is what I'm just me expressing my truth here. But I guarantee you, yeah. So anyway, I don't want to say more than that because I'm just mumbling at this point. It's been a long day. I'll probably end up repeating myself 14 different ways. But what's one thing that's been helpful to you?
Something that's definitely been helpful is seeing the different type of things I can add in my writing and knowing what to eat and knowing like and learning going forward like to shorten things and make it just more simpler for the reader and not just put a bunch of stuff that's just all going to jump into the same thing. So that definitely did help me.
Excellent. Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much. We can end this story here. And another thing I can do, I'm going to give you feedback on this in the form of a video. So I'll probably send that video to you before Monday. I'm going to do the same for Adi, kind of like when your teacher grades something and they give you their final
Yeah.
mark.
Hmm.
Um, it's not necessarily going to have a grade on it, but it's going to be kind of like, hey, this is how you did. This is the strength of here. That way you feel like you can move on and you can put this behind you because I feel it's important for you guys uh, to understand that there's a beginning to an essay, there's an end. That way we can move on to other things. And I'm sure you'll be very happy knowing that we can shift gears to a different type of writing.
Yes, sir.
Yep. All right. Take it easy. I will see you Friday morning.
Yes, sir. And about Friday, my mom will probably let you know because, like I said, there's a hurricane coming, so we don't know if we will have power Friday. So we'll
Got it.
definitely update you on stuff about Friday and stuff.
All right. Thanks so much for letting me know. I appreciate that. And I know you guys will be safe out there and do you guys have like shelters there? Do you have like a basement?
Yes, sir. Oh no, well, we don't have a basement though.
So do you guys have someplace underground? Like a little like uh I don't know what they call them, but like under the floor, some people have this little space like a little pantry.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well take it easy. I'll keep, on top of my messages and everything. So we'll take from there. Thanks, Izzy. Thanks for
Okay.
the extra time there.
No problem.
Okay, take it easy. That is what I want to say. Yeah, I did run a bit over. I mean, you could go all day long, so I'm gonna have to get better with that time management. I would also say that probably what I'm gonna end up doing, it would be very easy to underline in his story all those parts that we started to underline, that this happened, then that happened. I said this, she said that. I did this, she did that. And just look at that as the second draft. No reflection, no commentary, and then go back and see if you can remember the most important things that you wanted to say. The reflective side, how you felt. In fact, I would almost say that the events of the story, he said, she said, I did, she did, should also be what should be included in that is I felt, she felt, I thought, right? She thought. Well, you can't really read other people's minds, but you can kind of at least say how they felt. And that's just the story. Then let it sit, and then you add to that draft what you want to say, what you learned, because this is expressive, reflective writing. Expressive is what happened, how you felt. Reflective is the commentary. Reflective are the lessons that you learned. And for him, it was as it is to most really good writers, and I mean good writers who are creative and love to flow. It can be wordy, right? And so what the other lesson that I learned as being a fiction writer from being a fiction writer is that the more times you go through a draft and you cut it down, and you cut it down, and you cut it down, you rearrange, cut it down, rearrange, you're going to feel tired and frustrated with the process. And you're going to get kind of sick of the story. That's a good sign. That means you're working on it enough times to be able to feel sick about it. And so that's what a lot of writers say. Professional writers will tell you that. Yeah, you're not working on it until you feel sick of it. Now, high school students don't have forever to do this. They don't. They don't have forever. But, and it's very time consuming. But if they get it up here. What's happening when you write? They can learn to shorten the process, shorten the process, shorten process. They become really good writers and they don't work quite as long. And it becomes like second nature. Okay. High school's good for that because high school's always giving you new assignments. So, what I've found, and I've gone through sometimes 5, 6, 7 drafts, and I've published stuff on the radio and I've performed it, I've produced it with music, and they were popular stories. In fact, the radio station said mine were some of the most popular. Um, what I found was that sometimes the story that wants to be will only come out of that dark dungeon if you do enough drafts. It's almost like you're waiting outside that cave with a sword. You know that dragon's going to come out eventually. You know that brilliant story, that amazing story that's going to get you into that college. Uh, that's going to excite you about writing. That's going to make you a potential fiction writer. Is sitting in that cave. And people that go out to the cave for like an hour and hang out, they never catch their dragon because the dragon knows that dragon has to eat eventually. That dragon has to come out and get some food. And because you've done enough drafts, you're there long enough. You're there for a day, right? I'm not saying you spend all day on a draft. I'm just talking symbolically, right? Is you're out there for a day, you're going to catch that dragon. And so what's going to happen with Izzy's story is all of that great wisdom that he's giving us. That I think it's great. It needs to be truncated, it needs to be consolidated, it needs to be combined, reduced. When you do that, now you sprinkle it in the right places in the story. And the reader wants that. They want action. They want dialogue. They want how you felt. As far as the commentary, when you're in a relationship, things happen. And when you communicate, things happen. I've not always been a great communicator. That's been one of my weaknesses. Now, that is actually so insightful and very important for the reader. However, it needs to earn its place in the story for your reader to pay attention to these wise and insightful commentary sentences about yourself. It needs to be sandwiched in with the action. And readers are like that. They're just like, what happened? What happened next? Like, how did this happen? What did she say? What did you say? They don't quite care about the commentary that you and I care about in the same way until they see it sprinkled in the right places. Then they're like, whoa, you weren't always busy. You weren't always a communicator. No wonder you didn't share this with her. It wasn't that you meant to break up with her. And then the reader begins to see how that aspect of you maybe not being the best communicator, and I'm the same way. A lot of us are the same way. It matters. It matters to them in that part of the story. Right? Anyway, kids, these are tough lessons to learn. Tough. But I've been there. I've climbed this mountain before. I know what it looks like at the top of this mountain. And these things I'm asking you to do to get rid of things that you enjoyed writing and enjoyed sharing is painful. But the good news is the best of that stuff will always come back. Last thing I'll say before I end the video. Benny and Bjorn, my favorite musicians that write all these songs for ABBA, like Dancing Queen, Mamma Mia, The Winner Takes It All. They never wrote down the songs that they were playing when they were trying to make the songs, and they were like just coming up with little jingles, little melodies. And a lot of people record themselves thinking that, oh, well, I might play something really beautiful. I don't want to forget it. Ben and Bjorn never wrote it down because they figured, and the same with the Beatles, they figured if it was important enough then when I actually sit down to write the song, and we're going to write a song called PS I Love You, and we wrote all this music where we played all this music on Monday, know that on Tuesday, whatever we played on Monday that was really good is going to stay, and we're going to remember it on Tuesday. So that's what's happening with killing our babies in those parts of the story that we're trying to get rid of because we're overly explaining things. They're going to come back. They're going to come back. They're going to be in the right places. All right. So be encouraged. Thanks, guys, for your attention. And I will see you at the next session.